welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at what some are calling a complete earthquake heading for the European car market. It feels like the future battle isn't just theory anymore, right?
It's very real. It's rolling in quietly, efficiently, and it's built in China on an electric chassis. We're talking about BYD, Build Your Dreams, and it's a pretty dramatic expansion into Europe.
The tension is definitely there in the sources you sent over.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
It's palpable.
Yeah.
We've pulled together everything from, the official BYD press releases about their speed to some pretty stark market analysis on profit margins. Margins that are, frankly, jaw-dropping.
And then there's the whole debate in Brussels, right, about whether legacy European car makers should even be scared or how they can possibly compete.
Exactly. It's a really heated discussion.
Okay, it's like this economic clash wrapped up inside an EV battery.
Yeah.
Let's unpack this. Where should we start? Maybe BYD's big opening move. They didn't just show up at the ports.
No, they planted a flag
Right.
right in the middle of the continent. We're talking about Hungary.
Hungary, okay.
That's the first big step, their localization strategy. Remember back on December 22nd, 2023, that's when BYD announced they're building a massive new passenger car factory, state-of-the-art, in Szeged, Hungary.
And this isn't just bolting cars together, right? It's more than assembly.
Much more. It's designed as a full manufacturing hub. They're aiming to create a local green ecosystem, as they put it.
And the significance, I mean, this is a big deal, isn't it?
It's huge. This will be the first BYD passenger car factory built by a Chinese auto company in Europe.
But why Hungary? I mean, Central Europe can be politically tricky, and they must know the EU Commission is watching like a hawk. Why there instead of, say, Germany or France,
Right.
a bigger market?
Well, it's definitely a calculated risk, but it comes with some key strategic advantages. First off, Hungary is a major transportation hub.
Okay.
And it already has a pretty deep history in making cars. You've got Audi, Mercedes-Benz, Suzuki already operating plants there.
Right, so there's infrastructure, skilled workers.
Right. Exactly. Mature infrastructure, a workforce that knows cars. But, honestly, the big driver, supportive government policy. Hungary offers some really aggressive incentives, subsidies for foreign investment. They're basically rolling out the red carpet.
Okay, so build locally to potentially sidestep future tariffs, but grab those nice local subsidies now. Makes sense. And it fits with their whole cool the earth by 1 degree C mission, too, building this local green supply chain.
Precisely. And you just have to look at the speed they entered the market. It's kind of astonishing.
How fast are we talking?
In just the first year of launching passenger car sales in Europe, they set up 230 dealerships across 19 countries.
Wow.
And introduced 5 models already, the Han, Tang, 803, Seal, and Dolphin, covering different parts of the market. Plus, they've got 3 more models planned just for the next 12 months.
That kind of speed. It's hard to even process. Is that just down to being really efficient at building things, or are they just tweaking existing Chinese models for Europe really fast?
It's really both. And it's powered by something crucial, their vertically integrated supply chain.
Vertical integration. Okay, what does that mean in this context?
It means they control almost everything. From the basic raw materials for the batteries, the cathodes, the anodes, right up to the software, the chips, the final assembly.
So they don't rely on outside suppliers as much.
Much less. It cuts out dependencies, makes the whole process incredibly fast. It lets them iterate quickly, take models that are already hits in Asia and adapt them for European tastes and, importantly, safety rules.
Okay. Let's switch gears from logistics to the money side, because this is where that competition gap seems to become, a huge chasm. That vertical integration must lead to a financial edge.
A massive one.
Yeah.
That's the firewall we mentioned.
Yeah.
There was one analysis looking at models like the BYD Seal U,
Yeah.
and it found that BYD's gross profit margin, the money they make per car in the EU, is reportedly 10 times higher than the margin they make back home in China.
Wait, 10 times the profit margin here compared to China. That
Yeah.
sounds almost unbelievable. Does that raise red flags like predatory pricing concern?
Well, the main takeaway for analysts is the sheer strategic pricing power it gives them. Think about this. Even if the EU decides to impose, say, a big 30% tariff on top of the standard 10% duty,
Right.
sources suggest BYD still makes around $5,000 profit per vehicle on these models.
So the tariffs that are meant to protect European companies, BYD can just absorb them.
Pretty much. They can use Europe's own defenses as just a cost buffer. Legacy brands struggling with thin EV margins, They just don't have that luxury.
They're not just selling cars then, they're essentially buying market share. That huge margin gives them flexibility to ride out political storms, price changes, and still undercut the competition.
And we've seen them do it. Remember when France changed its EV incentives, excluding some Chinese models,
Yeah.
MG and BYD?
Huh.
They just lowered their prices almost immediately to stay competitive. They have the financial muscle to handle market shifts that could seriously hurt, maybe even bankrupt a legacy automaker right now.
And it's not just the price, is it? It's what you get for the price. The value seems different. You look at a base model Chinese EV.
And it often feels loaded compared to a European equivalent.
Absolutely. Consumer expectations are shifting fast because of this.
Can you give an example?
Sure, think about things like adaptive cruise control or maybe parking assist features. They often come standard on cars like the BYD Dolphin Surf, even the entry-level one.
Okay.
But then you look at comparable European cars, maybe a base Volkswagen ID.3. European brands often make you pay extra for those same features, sometimes quite a bit extra. Or on the cheaper models, like the new Fiat Grande Panda or the Citroën EC3, those features might not even be available.
So the message to the buyer is more car, less money from China.
Essentially, yes. Better value proposition right out of the box.
And that value, that comes back to the tech control you mentioned, the vertical integration. We do hear about European companies trying to catch up, adopting newer battery tech like LFP. Is that happening?
It is, yes. LFP, lithium iron phosphate batteries. They're cheaper, generally safer than the older nickel cobalt types. Companies like Renault, Citroën, they are moving that way.
There's always a but, isn't there? The but is systemic control. It's one thing to decide to use LFP batteries. It's another thing to control the supply chain for them. The core stuff, the cathodes, anodes, the specific chips needed, the powerful magnets for the electric motors that's still overwhelmingly made and scaled up in China.
So European companies are playing catch-up not just on the assembly line, but further down, in the fundamental tech.
Exactly. They're struggling to secure access and control over the essential tech and raw materials needed to build competitive LFP batteries at scale and manage the costs effectively.
Okay, so BYD is moving at, well, light speed.
Yes.
They have cost advantages, tech advantages. What's Europe doing about it? The response seems slow, fragmented.
It definitely seems divided. We've established tariffs aren't really stopping them because of those profit margins. So Europe's main political weapon right now is the anti-subsidy investigation.
Ah, the probe into the Hungarian factory.
Precisely. The European Commission launched an official investigation. They want to know if BYD got unfair state subsidies from China to help build that Szeged plant.
And if they find proof, what can the EU do?
They have potentially strong tools. They could force BYD to cut production, maybe even repay the subsidies. Or they could impose fines, potentially up to 10% of BYD's global revenue.
That sounds serious, but you said it's controversial.
Highly. The Hungarian government, obviously benefiting from the jobs and the investment, they seem completely unconcerned. They're prioritizing that investment over Brussels' worries about trade defense. Creates friction.
This whole situation, it feels like a replay of past trade issues, but maybe worse. The EU tried tariffs on EVs before, and it didn't go well, did it?
No, that whole saga is seen in Brussels as a, quote, huge lesson and a cautionary tale.
Why? What went wrong?
Several things. The process was just too slow, too technical. It left the EU member states divided amongst themselves. Crucially, as we discussed, the tariffs they did impose still weren't high enough to really stop Chinese imports from being profitable.
And there was retaliation.
Oh, yes.
Huh.
Beijing hit back pretty quickly, targeting things like French cognac, pork, dairy products, high-value European exports. It hurts.
So the policy of de-risking from China, it sounds like it's failing.
Well, the results aren't there yet. Sources we looked at indicate the EU might actually be more dependent on China now than it was 2.5 years ago when they announced the policy. There's this huge gap, a yawning gap, between Brussels' intentions and what individual member states are actually doing.
You mentioned Spain earlier. That leads to this idea of beggar thy neighbor policies. What does that mean? It sounds bad.
It is corrosive for unity, yeah.
Yeah.
It basically means member states are competing against each other to attract Chinese investment. So Spain might offer better terms than, say, Hungary or vice versa. They aggressively offer incentives, maybe ignoring conditions Brussels wants to set, just to land the factory or the investment.
So they undercut each other.
Exactly. They undercut each other's leverage, weakening the EU's collective bargaining power and its overall trade defense strategy, all just to grab that slice of Chinese capital for themselves.
In that inertia, that slow response, we see it inside countries too, right? Like Germany, the industrial powerhouse. Their response seems, well, glacial.
Germany is a really striking example of that disconnect. Ambition versus execution. They launched this big $1 billion fund for critical raw materials about a year ago. The whole point was to reduce dependency on China for key inputs.
Okay, sounds good. €1 billion.
Yeah, but despite getting around 40 applications from companies ready to go, ready to invest, guess how many projects they've actually approved?
Uh-oh. Let me guess. Not many.
Zero.
Zero in a whole year,
Yeah.
with 40 applications waiting.
Zero approved projects. It's not just slow, it's, well, you said it, glacial. It's a pretty profound failure of execution.
That's shocking. While BYD is building factories and supply chains.
Germany is apparently still bogged down in bureaucracy, political infighting, maybe a deep-seated aversion to risk in policymaking. They're effectively ceding control of the very components BYD built its empire on while debating paperwork.
So let's pull this all together. BYD builds locally in Hungary, dodging some tariff risks. They have massive profit margins, giving them price power. They control the core tech. And Europe's response is slow, divided, and sometimes ineffective. What does this ultimately mean for us, for the consumer, for the market?
It means systemic pressure, and it hits the mass market first. BYD's strategy, with its cost advantages and local production, goes right for the heart of the European volume car market. That puts brands like Stellantis,
Yeah.
Peugeot, Fiat, Citroën, Opel under immense pressure. Some observers are already saying Stellantis is in a systemic crisis. They're incredibly vulnerable to this kind of hyper-efficient competitor.
People always draw parallels, the Japanese wave in the 70s and 80s, the Korean wave later on. Those forced European car makers to get better, leaner, improved quality. Is this just that, round three? Or is it different this time because China dominates the core EV tech, the batteries, the chips?
That really is the multi-billion-euro question, isn't it? Is it just another competitive cycle, or is it something fundamentally different? Before, the fight was mostly about assembly quality, reliability, maybe factory efficiency. This time, some argue it's about who controls the source code of the entire industry.
Like that official said, the old rules, playing by the book.
Hasn't made a dent, that's a quote. So Europe faces a stark choice now. Does it go for full-on protectionism? Does it enforce really strict local content rules? Or does it need a massive, probably painful, complete industrial overhaul?
Which leaves us with a really critical thought for you, the listener, to consider. If tariffs don't work and internal investment is too slow, can Europe's century-old car industry actually survive as we know it? Or will those historic factories just end up assembling cars designed and powered by Chinese technology?
That industrial overhaul. If it's going to happen, it needs to happen, well, pretty much now. Otherwise, the question might just answer itself.
A truly fascinating and, absolutely critical deep dive. Thank you for connecting all those complex pieces for us today.
Always a pleasure to dig into the data with you.
And thank you sincerely for joining us, for engaging with this really crucial topic. We hope you found it insightful. Please don't miss our next deep dive. The truth we uncover is always more compelling than just the headlines. If you appreciate getting this kind of sharp analysis, please do follow the channel. It really helps us keep doing this work. Until next time.